Hello everyone, today I'm making a quick video to show you all how to use a Sega Saturn controller on your Nintendo Switch. Now, I did not create this methodology. In fact, I found somebody else had done all the research into making this work on a NeoGAF thread, and I'll keep the name of the person who figured that out outside of this video in interest of anonymity. But with that said, this is their methodology on how to make the Sega Saturn controller work on the Switch. Now, you'll need a couple of adapters to actually get it to work, which unfortunately will rack up quite a bill if you're actually trying to get this to work on your Switch. But, the Switch is currently having a pretty big surplus of platformers and fighting games and shoot-'em-up games that, for me, was just a no-brainer for me to use one of these Sega Saturn controllers with it. The D-pad is just unparalleled in how awesome it is, so I figured I'd try to make it work for myself. So with that said, let's jump into the series of adapters that you'll need, all of which are by the company MAYFLASH, bear in mind. And I'll try to have some links within the description for where you can either buy these or at least see what the name of them are if they're not for sale currently. So the first adapter you'll need is this one. It's called the SS Controller Adapter for PC USB. As I mentioned, it's by MAYFLASH, and essentially all it is, it has ports for your Sega Saturn controller, and it has a USB output on the top. Now, the next adapter I want to show you is something that's been pretty popular on the Switch nowadays. It's called the Magic NS adapter. This adapter is pretty awesome for the Switch because it allows you to use like Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3 controllers, etc., which is pretty convenient if you have a bunch of different types of controllers to use in your Switch. Now, out of the box it says you can use this adapter for USB controllers, but the only problem is it only supports X input type controllers, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the output that Xbox used for the Xbox 360 as well as for Microsoft Windows controllers. So with that said, the Sega Saturn adapter that I just pointed out does not export the signal to X input, unfortunately, so you will need another adapter to get it to work with this particular adapter. This adapter that I'm mentioning that you'll need is called the MAYFLASH Universal Adapter for Ultimate for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS3, PC USB. It's a bit of a mouthful of a title, but basically all it is it's an adapter that allows you to convert a USB signal to a bunch of different types, including Xbox One, PS3, and X input, which is the one that we'll need. So this little system works so that you plug your Sega Saturn controller into the Sega Saturn adapter, which has a USB output, which you then plug in to the MAYFLASH Ultimate blah 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 adapter, which also has a USB output, making sure to select the X input option on the back, which plugs directly into the Magic NS adapter, which then goes into your Switch dock. A little bit of a a funky system, but it happens to work. So with that said, this adapter will cost you around like $20 or so. It's one of the cheapest adapters in this list, I believe. The Magic NS I've seen anywhere from like maybe $20 to $30 if you were to buy it at a shop or something, but I've seen it for typically cheaper online. This adapter, however, is a little more expensive. I bought it on Amazon for about, I think, $50 or $60, so needless to say, this system is not the most economical. In fact, it's a little bit ridiculous when you think about the cost of it, because you could be buying a Pro controller or some other controller for your Switch, but it was just a bit of a no-brainer for me just because I love the Sega Saturn controller. So that said, let's plug it into the Switch just to show you how that works. Bear with me one moment using one hand. Let's plug it into the dock. Sorry. And I currently have the controller connecting screen queued up. All you really need to do to get it to connect is you press the L and R buttons on the Sega Saturn controller. And if you heard that little tone, you can see that it's now connected to the Switch. So if you press the C button on the Sega Saturn controller, that corresponds with A. I'll put a little chart in the description below, but the listing of the buttons converting from the Sega Saturn to the Pro controller, for example, is as follows. The A button corresponds to the Y button on the Pro controller / Joycon. B is B. C is A, as I just mentioned. X is X. Y is L. Z is ZL. L is R. And R is ZR. Start is start, and then the D-pad is just the D-pad input. So needless to say, the mapping of the buttons is a little funky, and depending on the game that you're playing, you might need to either remap your controls or figure out an alternate way to get it to work if you're not used to, for example, the R and ZR buttons both being on the top of the controller. Now, a lot of the games that I play that are like 2D platformers or shoot 'em ups on the Switch, unfortunately have button remapping, so I was able to get it to work for most of the games that I would play anyways. But just bear that in mind if you're going to be using this for any game on the Switch. So, now that I'm back in the main menu, I'll show you how the game works. I currently have Danmaku Unlimited 3 queued up. It's a shoot 'em up game, I like it quite a bit, but it's a simple game that I can show you how the controls work on. So let's just go back. I've already kind of mapped the controller to work with the Sega Saturn controller pretty well. So let's just hop into a quick game just to show you. And like I had mentioned before, just bear in mind I'm using one hand here, so bear with some terrible gameplay for the time being. Now, hold up the controller just to point out the next thing is that there is a bit of input lag on my TV, just naturally speaking. In fact, when I compare this controller to the, for example, Switch Pro controller, it has a very similar amount of input lag. So I'm going to show you when I'm moving the D-pad. The ship does lag a little bit, but I don't think it has anything to do with this particular system of adapters. I've been told by other people that have tried this on different TVs and such that there isn't really any input lag. It's just something, I think my TV just had a little bit of input lag naturally. So hopefully if you guys were to use this option and your TV has a little bit less input lag, you wouldn't really notice it quite a bit. But with that said, that was my quick little tutorial on how to use the Sega Saturn controller on your Switch, and hopefully it's useful for you, and hopefully I'm not the only crazy one that's actually doing this. Yeah, thanks guys, hope you enjoyed it. Bye.